Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming on this chilly day. At least it's sunny outside, so that's a good thing. So today we are gonna keep talking about Jesus with the lecture done by Marcio, and we are gonna have our initial reading and prayer done by Paul. Paul, can you go? Thank you.
In the presence of Jesus. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men. Paul, Colossians 3:25. The understanding of service to Jesus among human beings will in the future reach greater depths for the glorification of the one who watches over us closely and who has done so since the very first day, illuminating our path with the divine light. If each educated person could ask himself regarding the essential reason for his activities here on earth, he would always find in his inner sanctuary vast horizons of deductions of infinite value. For whom has he worked in this century? To whom has he offered the fruits of his everyday work? We do not wish to detract from the respectable position of countries, of organizations, of the family, or of the personality. However, we cannot fail to observe their expression of relativity in time. In the course of the years, frontiers are modified, laws evolve, the domestic group is renewed, and mankind progresses towards more elevated destinies. Everything that represents effort on the part of man was accomplished through his own initiative in the field of permanent work for Jesus Christ. Whatever we have realized through the centuries constitutes a benefit or an offense to ourselves in the labors that belong to the Lord and not to us individually. Legislators and governed people depart in time with their own individual baggage, and Jesus remains in order to evaluate the advantage or disadvantage of the collaboration of each one of them in the divine service of evolvement and enlightenment. Administration and obedience, the responsibility of tracing and following, are only subdivisions of the concession conferred by the Lord to the followers. Dignified work is a saintly opportunity. Within the circle of service, the attitude of each human being will either honor or dishonor his eternal personality in the presence of Jesus Christ. God our Father, Jesus our guide, all the good spirits who come each week, let us join together in learning and listening to the precious presentation today on such a unique and precious topic. In Jesus' name.
All right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let me get my books here. So you may be thinking, why the name of the lecture is Who is Jesus and not Who was Jesus, right? And when I started, my original theme for this was who it was Jesus, right? But then going for the studies and looking what I want to talk about Jesus, the first thing that came to my mind, and that the first lesson that I learned through my studies was that I shouldn't say who was Jesus, right? Jesus was just one incarnation of this spirit that is still out there. So he still exists, right? So I shouldn't say who Jesus was. And as Jesus and any of us here, all the spirits are immortal, I will not talk about Jesus' life. I will not talk about Jesus, where he was born, how was his life, because I feel that all of that we already know, right? So the intention of today is to talk about who is Jesus, right? Who is Jesus in our lives? And the first thing that we have to have in mind is that Jesus is our, as we call in spiritual, the governor of the earth, right? And what that means, what exactly that means. We also call Jesus as the Christ, right? Jesus Christ. So if we go into the origins of that word, Christ is the same as the Messiah. And the Messiah was that king, that person, that spirit that would bring to the people of Israel the peace. It would bring the peace to all the earth, all the people. And it was part of the prophecy in the Old Testament, right? So Christ is really that pure spirit. And then the Spirit magazine that Kardec used to write when he was incarnated, he in the February of 1868, by the Spirit Locardère, I think, something like that. It says, next to God are numerous spirits who got to the top of the scale of pure spirit. So there is more than one Christ. There is more than one pure spirit like Jesus, right? This is the first thing that you need to have in mind. There are so many words out there, right? So Jesus is the one who was here helping us in earth. And another interesting thing is that he sat at the top of the scale of the pure spirits. So we keep saying we need to reach to become a pure spirit. So that's just starting our a new level of evolution, let's say, right? Because to be in the top of the pure spirit, imagine that there's a lot of things to go through, right? To continue enhancing our pureness. I don't know if I can say that, but continue to become more and more pure as a spirit to be closest to God. And then they continue saying, which they deserve to the initiating God's plans to drive its execution. So when that pure spirit got at that top of the pureness, God started to use them to help to continue his creation, right? So it's what we're gonna see later in the next slide, where André Luiz call those spirits, those Christs, as the co-creators, right? And then it continues saying, God choose among them those elevated spirits to be in charge of special assignments. So they got very special mission, right? First, to help God to create earth. If you go to the book Genesis, you're gonna see a lot of explanation about the creation of the world, how it was, etc. I'm not gonna go that level of details because I don't know. It's a lot of details, but it's a very special mission to make all of this happen, right? If you can imagine everything that happens in nature, it's just happened, right? So it needs to be perfect. It needs to be how they call the engineers and architects of God to create all of this, right? To the earth to rotate around the sun and then rotating itself to create day and light, day and night, and the water, our body, it's so perfect, it's so complex, but it's the same time so perfect, right? Everything works without even we need to think about it. We don't just say to our heart, keep it beating, I need to survive, keep doing that. No, it just happened, right? So it's all part of this creation that God with Jesus created for us. And then at the end the Spirit says, you can call them Christ. Like, Christ is just a name at the end, right? What really means is that those pure spirit in the very top are those helping God. So we can call them Christ, we can call them Messiah, we can call them co-creators, whatever we want to call them. That's totally fine. So that is Jesus. Jesus is that pure spirit helping God to create. Right? And then in the, I don't know, I didn't find this book as translated already to English, so it's probably coming soon, but in the book Evolução em Dois Mundos, we could say Evolution in Two Words, I think, it says, in this original substance, and it's talking about the cosmic fluid, right, that we all are immersed, we all are created from that cosmic fluid. Everything is based on the cosmic fluid. It's at the push of the Supreme Lord Himself, operate the divine intelligence aggregate to Him. So, indescribable communion process. So, it's God with Jesus, with those Christ creating the universe, right? André Luiz cannot describe it. I cannot do that either. But we can imagine, right? How is to maybe closer to God, creating and making all of this happen. Extracting from this spiritual breath the energy which builds the system of immensity. In co-creation, services on the higher realms, in accordance with the designs of the All-Merciful, which makes them guide agents of the sublime creation. So we could also say that we, each one of us here, are co-creators as well. So we all know that we are not here for no reason, right? We're not here just to progress, right? So we can say that we are also co-creators, like Jesus, but let's say that we are still interns in the very beginning of our careers as co-creators, as these engineers, right? We are still probably in college doing our studies, right? And each one of our incarnations are those internships that we need to go through, that we need to learn new lessons. So, as a student, as an intern, we need what? We need someone to help us, right? We need a role model. We need someone to guide us through that progression, and that is Jesus. That is Jesus for us. Like in the Spirit's book, question 625, it says, "What is the perfect standard that God has offered to humankind as a guide and model?" Look at Jesus is the answer from the spirits. So Jesus is the perfect being, the perfect spirit that came to earth to help us, you know. But when we think about, okay, we need a guide, we need someone to guide us, the first question that comes to our mind is maybe, where are we going, right? So we know that we're progressing, we know we're doing all of this, but for what? Why we're doing all of this, right? And we're doing all of this to see God. You know, we want to meet with God. We want to be next to Him, like all the Christs, all the Jesus, right, out there. And we know that to see God, we need to have that pure heart. And that's not easy, you know. Have that pure heart is not easy at all. We, as spirits, we're gonna need to go where we don't want to be, right? That things that make us suffer, make us it hurt us, right? And that hurts because we need to change ourselves. It's those things that it's so easy to, you know, give an example. You are at the office, someone comes, start to gossiping about someone else. What is the easiest thing to do? just continue that conversation, right? Just continue talking about someone else. While we all know that that's not cool. We don't want other people to talk behind us, right? About us. We want people to help us, right? So that is what we always talk about, the narrow door. And I brought here the Gospel according to Spiritist. In the chapter 18, many are called, but few are chosen. In the item 3, it says, enter through the narrow door, for the door to perdition. Enter through the narrow door, for the door to perdition is wide, and the path leading to it is broad, and there are many who enter through it. How small is the door to life! How narrow is the path that leads to it, and how few there are who find it. That's part of the Matthew chapter 7. And then Kardec come and explain to us that the door to perdition is wide because the evil passions are many, and the pathway to evil is frequented by most. The door to salvation is narrow because those who want to go through it must make a great effort to control themselves in order to overcome their evil tendencies, and few resign themselves to doing so. It is to complement the maxim, many are called, but few are chosen. So the key thing here is to control ourselves, to overcome our evil tendencies. All of us, we all have those tendencies, right? And it's hard. It hurts to go and try to fix those small things. You know, we're not talking about here big things like you are a politician and you do big mistakes in your political career, and then what happened next incarnation, you have a lot of limitations. You know, we have those limitations too. You know, in different levels, depending on what we have been going through. We all have been limited to things that we would love to. Okay, but we know that we need to be close to God. We need to go through all of that, and then we cannot forget that to go to God, we need to follow His laws, right? And we talk about the question 625, but if we go a little bit, few questions before that, it starts saying, questions 621, where is God's law written? And the answer is in the conscience. So we wouldn't need Jesus if we have followed everything that our conscience is telling us every day, right? We know that we were created, and when we were created, God printed in our spirits all the laws, everything that we should know, right? But then the question 621a, it says, since humans carry God's laws in their conscience, why does it have to be revealed to them? They have forgotten and disregarded it, but God has willed for them to remember it. And let's see here that he's not talking about that we forgot because of our incarnation process, right? We forgot those laws as the spirits. You know, what we are right here, right now, as an incarnated spirit, we are as a disincarnated one. So it's not that we forgot because we forgot all the laws because we incarnated. No, we forgot it as spirits. And then we need to remember all those laws. And going through incarnations is what help us to learn again all the lessons, right? And then we may think, so is Jesus the only one that God sent to us? And the question 622, it says, has God endowed certain individuals with the mission of revealing these divine laws? And then, so from the spirits was, yes, certainly. And in every age, individuals have received these missions. They are high order spirits who have incarnated with the purpose of enabling humankind to progress. So you can think about, Francis of Assisi or Chico Xavier, you name it. There are so many examples that we know there was great spirits that came to help us to remember those lessons, right? Those laws. So those good spirits, and like Jesus, they especially Jesus, we can see that in everything that Jesus did while incarnated. They everything that they say, everything that they do, is according to God's laws, right? So what it brings to us in these questions is that we need to look to inside ourselves, right, and try to find what are those paths that we need to go through. What is those things that we need to change in ourselves, right? And always remember that God is within us, right? And we were created by God, and He put a little bit of Him inside of each one of us, right? So we are in this journey, right? Trying to get to God, trying to be closer to God, and in this journey, we're not alone, right? So Jesus is also our best friend, right? So He is our guide and He is our friend. When we are doing a trip, you want to be around who? Those that are people that we love the most, right? People that will enjoy the ride with us, right? So that is Jesus next to us, and He, in John, He said, "As I have loved you, so you must love one another." That's what we're going to talk a little bit. So Jesus came from the highest spheres to help us, right? And to help us what? To understand life, what life is, right? And he have exemplified everything that we could go through. If you take the gospel, you're gonna see many different situations. Maybe Jesus has gone through, like betrayal by His friends, right? In the last days of Jesus' life, all the apostles, not all, one of them was there in the cross, right? But almost all apostles, they disappeared. It was not there next to Jesus, right? He was born very poor, right? He was not a rich man. That it was easy to do everything that He did. So He was there with sinners and poor people all the time. So whatever we go through, what I want to say with that is that we always have that friend, right, that when we have a problem, we go and talk and try to see what we could do differently, etc. And Jesus has all those answers to us, right? We need to learn to read the gospel, to read the gospel according to Spiritism, and try to find our answers in those books, because those experiences that Jesus went through, that He helped others to go through, it's what we need, right? And we can think also, why Jesus incarnated, why Jesus came and here to go through everything. So does He really need to incarnate and be here with us? If we go to the Spirit's book again, on the question 170, it says, "What does the Spirit become after its final incarnation? A blessed spirit, a pure spirit." So if Jesus is a pure spirit, He already has His final incarnation. He wouldn't need to incarnate in any other country, any other planet. But why He did that? He did that because He's a pure spirit. He loves everyone, right? And in question 233, it says, the spirits who are already purified ever go to less evolved worlds, and then so as they frequently do so in order to help such worlds progress. Without those spirits, these worlds would be left to themselves without guides to direct them. So Jesus did that as our best friend, coming here. Our best friends usually go to the worst place, right? When they keep saying, don't do that, don't do that, and they say, no, we're gonna do it, come with me, and they go, right? To the later to say, I told you. But Jesus came and served as an example to all of us, everything that we need to do differently, right? And he didn't need it. He just came because of one thing, the law of love, because of his love for us, for each one of us, right? But Jesus is not only our friend, he's also a doctor, right? We through our journey in this life and in our incarnations, in our progress toward God, we all need to have a good health, right? We're gonna need to have a strong body to help us, and that starts with our spirit, right? So Jesus came to help the sinners. Jesus came to help to the poor, not for the righteous. That's what he says in Matthew 9:12. So we need to treat both things, our bodies and our spirits, because it starts with our spirits. Everything starts with our spirits. It's got a little bit more complicated, but in that book, Evolução em Dois Mundos, André Luiz bring us a little bit more that can help us to understand it. And he says, we admire the cells of intelligent principle of rudimentary aspect. At the service of the intelligent principle, in the noblest stage of the superior animals and human beings. So when he says at the service of the intelligent principle, he's telling us that everything in every single cell in our bodies, it's controlled by our spirits, by our intentions, by our thoughts, right? So it's part of the, as we said, we saw earlier, it's part of this big cosmic fluid, right? That putting together create our bodies, and then we control it through our spirit. And then it continues saying, renewing continuously the physical body and the spiritual body is various vibration modulation according to the individual intelligence that guide the spirit after birth and after grave. So incarnated or disincarnated. So our actions, our thoughts, it all gets reflected to our bodies, right? So I was saying earlier about the limitations in our existence, and that came also with those other spirits around us, right? We have this body, and then I have those spirits that are close to me. And what spirits will be close to us? Those spirits, those spirits that has the same vibration, the same thoughts that we have. So if I'm vibrating in a way that I'm having bad thoughts, whatever it is, those spirits that have that same thought will be connected to us. Or if I have a very good thoughts, I'm always trying to do my best and be connected with the good spirits, those good spirits will be to us. And what will happen is that we have a very fragile body, we could say, that here each one of us has that piece of our bodies that hurts the most, and then when we start to get to get too bad, and that bad vibration, that is the piece that gonna hurt the most. And I don't know how many of you guys know this story, but Chico Xavier used to have a dog, and then he was the dog was very sick, and then someone that knew him, as a way to help Chico, she sacrificed the dog, and telling Chico that she or he, I don't remember if it was she or he, so she was helping him, and he was very sad about it, very, very sad. So the next thing that we know about this story is that Emmanuel, Chico mentors, he went to Chico and said, Chico, go and buy something, the thing that that person wanted the most, and give that present to her. And that happened, right? He went there and gave that, and then he forgave her for what happened. That was the thing. But when I was studying about this, I also learned that day, when he hugged the person and he forgive the person, the energy between them changed everything around him. And Emmanuel told him that, the grief that he was having because of that situation would eventually cause a heart attack. I don't know the appropriate medical terms, but something like a heart attack, that it was avoided because of that. So he was bringing all that bad vibration about that person into his heart, right? So that was something that I didn't know. I didn't know the story about the dog, but I didn't know what happened after that. That healing piece, it was new for me. So it was it was a very clear example, right, for us on how those things can affect our health on a daily basis that we don't imagine, right? We don't realize those because we're not seeing it. It's hard to see. It's easy to say that, if you eat something that goes to microwaves is not good to your health, or if there's a lot of things that we heard every day in the media, right? You don't eat too much sugar, don't drink Coca-Cola, don't drink this, don't drink that, right? But at the end, we forgot that our actions is what matter the most, right? So we need to understand those things, because if we understand the whys, it's much easier to go through for some lessons. So Jesus is the doctor, not directly to our bodies, but to our spirits, right? So he has the remedy as the gratitude, right? We're very good to make a list of all our problems, things that we need to change, etc. But we forgot to do list of good things that we did, right? And so be grateful for those things that we have in life. I have a terrible job. You can say I have the worst job in the world. Well, you still have a job. There are people there that have no job. Oh, I don't like my house. I wish I could live in a bigger house. Well, you do have a house. Be grateful for that, right? So the first remedy for us is gratitude. Then we can say the faith is another great thing that Jesus brought to us again. The trust in God. Trust that we should do our part, and then God is gonna do his, right? And in the gospel, we have a good passage that talks about this. In the chapter 19, Faith Moves Mountains, it says in the item 11, faith, the mother of hope and charity. In order to be profitable, faith must be active. It must not grow numb. So we need to do our share of that. It's not just, faith is not just sitting in the chair and wait, okay, God's gonna do everything for me. I just need to wait. No. We need to act. We need to, if I wanted to be a doctor, I need to study. Not just say, well, if God wants, I'll be a doctor. No, I need to study. I need to study hard, right? It continues. Move, mother of all virtues, to lead to God. It must watch carefully over the development of the children it generates. Hope and charity are consequence of faith. These three virtues form an inseparable trinity. Isn't it not faith that provides the hope of seeing the Lord's promise fulfilled? Because if you do not have faith, what do you hope for? Is it for faith that provides love? Because if you do not have faith, what appreciation you will have, and consequently, what love? Faith, divine inspiration from God, awakes all the noble instincts that lead a human toward the good. Is the foundation of regeneration. So that's another thing that that Jesus brought to us as a remedy, that we need to trust in God again. Right? We lost that trust. We need to find that again through the faith. And finally, the forgiveness that I already talked about it. So we know that Jesus is our friend, our guide, and the doctor. And then we didn't live, well, we don't remember. We probably lived 2,000 years ago. But Jesus is not here physically with us, right? So how did Jesus talk to us, right? And again, Jesus talked to us through the gospel, right? If you read the gospel with a lot of attention, you're gonna see that what he's telling there, it's not for a specific situation. It's not for the adultery woman, or the person that was sick. Everything that he's talking is from a spirit to another spirit. So it's easy for us to, through those main examples, we find the answer that we need, because he's not talking specifically about that. He talks to the immortal spirit, right? So all the lessons that we have there is not if you are doing this or that, is as a spirit. What do you need to learn, right? We tend to see, for years and years, we try to see those lessons through rules, rituals, right? But Jesus is not telling us any rule. He's not showing you must do this, this, and this. You need to go to the church every Sunday. You need to do this. You need to do that, right? It's not the rules that, and we need to be careful, even in Spiritism, like we say, you guys should do your gospel at home. We have the fluidified water, we have the passes, that all of that can become rituals if you don't understand why you're doing that. So that's what Jesus brought to us, the understanding of why. So if you go to a hospital, right, what do? You don't speak too loud. You're very quiet, right? Because that's the right thing to do. They may have some science there, but you don't even need, they don't need that, because people don't go there and start, well, maybe some, right, Joyce? But in general, people will be quiet, will be, not walking too fast. If you see someone sick, you're gonna let the person pass by you. So you just understand why. You don't need anyone to tell you that. So that's what Jesus, in his teachings, when he's talking to us, he's doing. He is telling us the why we need to do those things. So he's always he used those small circumstances of life to teach. That's why he always talking about parables, right? But if you think about that parable with the woman that had would be stoned, right? And he says, "Who didn't sin before?" And everybody goes away. So that's not about the sinner, but about us. What we have been doing, right? Are we really can judge others, right? That's the lesson there. Not that if you adulterer you should be stoned, or that's not the point, right? And talking with Jesus is always something very intimate, right? There's a lot of intimacy between that conversation, and that can help between two incarnated people, right? Talking with each other and help them. So there is this story about Chico, again, that a mother who just had lost her son or daughter, had just incarnated. She came to Chico and cry and say, "Chico, my son or my daughter just incarnated." And he heard her, and they are both crying for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever. But what he's demonstrating there, what he's doing, why he didn't say anything, that was compassion. He understand what she was going through. He was next to her, and he didn't need to say anything. So through that compassion, at the end, she said, this was the best consolation that I ever had. Because he was putting himself in her situation and just feeling compassion for her. And we cannot forget that we are all mediums, right? So it's easy to we can say that it's easy for Chico or for Givaldo, thank you, that they have their great mediumship, they have their mentors, they're always there talking to them, but we are all mediums. We are all in contact with the spiritual world. It's upon us to decide to whom we want to connect to, right? To whom we want to talk to. So it's upon us to decide if I want to talk with those good spirits, with my mentor, through a prayer, right? Or through my thoughts. It's all depend on what we are connected to. So that's Jesus. Jesus is our best friend, is our doctor, is our... I'm not saying, guys, please, I need to say that when I say that Jesus is our doctor, I'm not encouraging anyone here to do not go to the doctors, because that's two totally different things. When we do our spirits make something to our bodies, then we need to go to a doctor here in earth to help with the body. Don't expect that, I'll be praying at home and everything will be fixed. No. Go to the doctor. I'm not saying that you should not go to the doctor. So that is Jesus. Jesus is our friend. Jesus is our guide. Jesus is our doctor. And I want to leave you guys with this last message that, we heard all the time from Matthew chapter 26. Watch and pray so that we will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. There is this quotation that is attributed to Chico Xavier also that says, "The cleanest place is not the one that we clean more, but the one that does not get dirty." So for our thoughts, for our actions, let's make sure that we not need to do that cleaning all the time, right? That we always trying to do to be clean in our thoughts, that we can that we don't need to go to doctors, that we don't need to do anything different than get closer to God. Okay. So Jesus, this week that is starting, we're gonna celebrate again Jesus' anniversary and birthday, and so keep that in mind. So who Jesus is, and everything that he brought to us, and what are we gonna do in our lives to be closer to him, to deserve his friendship, right? And to get close to God. Okay. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcio. So do you guys have any questions, any comments that you want to add, or people on the internet as well? No?
As a matter of fact, there's one here,
Okay.
and I was telling her that this could be a title for a topic for a full lecture, but maybe Marcio can just talk a little bit about it. It came from Nadia, and she was asking about a particular parable that says it's not the ones who are healthy who needs a doctor. What does Jesus mean by that?
It's not this SARS
The
there?
ones that are
Not
healthy.
the healthy ones that needs a doctor.
It's not the healthy one that is a doctor. Yeah, because it's just sad. It's going to be a full lecture. But in that parable, if we think about it, Jesus didn't come for those who understand the laws, right? Jesus didn't came here to help those that really doing what God expects from us, right? He was here to help those brothers and sisters just like us, right? That trying to do their best, trying to have this wake up call to say, oh my God, I have been doing this for years and years. So the sinners, the people that is not healthy, is those that are going through this this continued bad decisions, let's say, and then that is affecting their lives, their health, and then change. When Jesus, every time that Jesus cured someone, he always said it was not me. Well, he didn't say it was not me. He always said it was your faith that cured you, right? So it's in us, right? It's in us to change ourselves, our vibration, our thoughts, to help ourselves. It's not that someone will come and say, "Oh, now you're saved, now you're cured," right? So it was not Jesus only doing that. It was the person really seeking for that and change themselves. Hope I can help it.
Thanks, Marcio.
Ok. Thank you, Marcio, very much.
Thank you.
Marco vai fazer o bagulho? Ou vai gravar? Depois da oração? Okay. So thank you everyone online for coming and joining us. We will now close for our passes, so have a blessed week. See you next Sunday.